Good day. I am going to present a lesson for mathematical literacy to grade 12 learners. As you all know that mathematical literacy is the application of mathematical concept in the real life context. Therefore, the implication is that a lot of language is behind this. So we need to unpack the language that we need to understand the concepts. So the objectives of my lesson today, number one will be to bridge the language barrier. Secondly, learners, by the end of this lesson, you should be able to analyze the context that has been given to you and then use it to answer with understanding. Thirdly, you should be able to understand the concepts by using the language to analyze the concept itself. Number three, you should be able to understand the assessment weights correctly. Today's topic is a need for every South African citizen: taxation. Okay, what is tax? Tax is a compulsory levy imposed to citizens' earnings or purchases to fund the activities of the government. Let me unpack the definition itself. The word compulsory implies that it is enforced. Every individual should pay tax. It is not optional. What does the word levy mean? The levy is the amount of money that should be paid to the government or an organization. Therefore, we say that combining the two, the definition of a tax is a compulsory levy imposed on citizens' earnings and purchases to fund activities of the government. The government is funding the activities through earnings and purchases. Through earnings, it's funding it when people are getting the income tax. When you get the income tax, you are obliged to pay tax if you qualify to pay tax. We will unpack that later. And then every citizen indirectly pays tax through VAT. Okay, let us recap on what you did in grade 10 under the topic taxation. In grade 10, you dealt specifically with VAT. What is VAT? VAT is an acronym standing for Value Added Tax. Value added tax, it is the indirect tax on the domestic consumption of goods and services, except for the zero-rated items. So what are zero-rated items? The zero-rated items are those items on which you are not going to pay tax with nil tax rate. Under the VAT itself, you also learned about the VAT inclusive price. The VAT inclusive price is the price that is including VAT itself. So when we say the price is including VAT, the implication is that it is the original price that is without VAT plus 14%. If you are given the VAT exclusive price and then you are to calculate the VAT inclusive price, then you should calculate 14% of the VAT exclusive price. The word "of" in mathematical literacy imply that you need to multiply. So we take 14% and multiply by the VAT exclusive price to get the VAT inclusive price. Then to reverse it, if you are given the VAT inclusive price and then you should to reverse it to the VAT exclusive price, it would be very wrong to only subtract the 14%. Because remember, when you subtract the 14%, you are no longer subtracting it from 100%. Rather, you are subtracting it from the 114%. And remember, for us to calculate the VAT inclusive price, we multiply it. So for us to calculate the VAT exclusive price, we'll then divide by 114%. Therefore, in summarizing, we are saying for you to calculate the VAT inclusive price, if you are given the VAT exclusive price, you will multiply by 114%. For you to calculate the VAT exclusive price from the VAT inclusive price, then you divide the VAT inclusive price by 114%. Let's recap on what you did in grade 11. In grade 11, you dealt with the salary slip or the pay slip. Let us unpack the terminology that is entailed when you're dealing with the pay slip or the salary slip. Firstly, you have the notch salary. What is the notch salary? Notch salary is the annual salary that one earns over a period of 12 months. And then we have the basic salary. The basic salary is that annual salary divided by 12. And then we have the gross salary. The gross salary will then be the basic salary plus any other form of benefit. Any other form of benefit can be the bonus, it can be the housing allowance. So the misconception that in most cases occurs is that sometimes learners are mixing the two concepts of gross salary and the basic salary. So I want to make it clear to you that when we talk about the basic salary does not include the benefits, whereas the gross salary is the basic salary plus the benefits. I think the distinction is clear. Okay, we have the deductions which are taken from the gross salary. The type of deductions which are taken from the gross salary can be the UIF and the payee. Let me unpack each and every one of these. The UIF is the Unemployment Insurance Fund, a government-run insurance fund which employers and employees contribute to so that employees who are retrenched can collect some earnings. Okay, now we can break down the acronym itself. What does unemployment mean? In this case, the unemployment implies people who are jobless, who were once employed. And then the insurance is a means of protection when one loses the financial security. And then the fund is a source of money that will be allocated for a specific purpose. Therefore, that makes the definition of UIF to be the fund that is collected to ensure that when one has been retrenched, there's financial security. Now, secondly, we have the pension fund. The pension fund is a fund that is established to ensure that when one does not work anymore, when one retires, there's still a source of income. The employee and the employer are both contributing to this fund. Then we have the payee. Payee is pay as you earn. Income tax is deducted in order to run the services of the country, and the money is submitted to SARS. Then let us go to what you should do in grade 12. In grade 12, remember, we're just recapping what you were doing in grade 10 and grade 11. Grade 12, the basic concept under taxation will be the income tax. Taxation and tax are sometimes confused. Remember that we said tax is a levy. Then taxation will then be a means by which a government is financing their expenditure by imposing every citizen to pay tax. So we have two types of taxes. It is the compulsory tax, which is VAT, and then it is the income tax. Through the income tax, then not everyone is paying the income tax. Only people who qualify to pay tax will pay tax. It will depend as to whether the individual is earning an income about the tax threshold or below the tax threshold. Then I want to unpack the term tax threshold. Let me first talk about the threshold itself. The word threshold implies point of entering. Therefore, the tax threshold is the income level at which a person begins to pay tax. So if an individual's income, annual income, is less than the tax threshold, then the individual does not pay tax. If it is above the tax threshold or equal to the tax threshold, then the individual will pay tax. And that is categorized according to age groups. If someone is less than 65, then the tax threshold is less. Calculating the income tax. Before we can deal with the calculation of the income tax, we need to define exactly what income tax is. Income tax is the amount of money that should be paid to South African Revenue Services. Okay, I want to take you through the steps of calculating tax. Step number 1. When you calculate tax, it will depend as to whether the amount given to you is the taxable income or the salary or the monthly salary. Let us take for an example that if you are given the monthly salary, step number 1 would then be to calculate the annual income. Calculating the annual income implies that you will multiply the monthly salary by 12 and add any form of benefit. Remember, we said the benefit can be the bonus, it can be the housing allowance, etc. Step number 2. Part of the annual income is non-taxable. For example, you have the pension fund, which is non-taxable. You have the donation that is non-taxable. You have the child support payments, which are also non-taxable. You need to calculate that and ensure that you multiply it in such a way that it is the annual non-taxable income. The third step will then be to calculate the taxable income. Remember, you calculated the total income, then you calculated the non-taxable income. We will subtract the non-taxable income from the annual income to get the taxable income, the income from which you will pay tax. Then after that, step number 4 is to establish as to whether is this individual eligible to pay tax or not. Remember, not everyone should pay tax. If an individual is earning an amount less than the tax threshold, then that individual will not pay tax. After calculating the taxable income, then you compare it versus the tax threshold to check as to whether is this individual going to pay tax or not. That will be identified by the comparison between the two. Then from there, you calculate tax, step number 5, using the tax table. On the tax table, you'll find the tax bracket. The tax brackets are in such a way that they are categorized first in terms of the people's income and the rates. So you check the annual income of an individual, then you check the correct tax bracket under which it falls, and then you can be able to identify the correct tax bracket. After identifying the correct tax bracket, you then calculate the tax using the BOTMAS. And then after calculating the tax, don't forget to subtract the rebates and the medical credit. Let us talk about the rebates now. What are rebates? A rebate, it is a relief, a tax relief for every individual who earns tax. And then it is categorized according to ages. Remember, if someone is younger, therefore the tax relief will be less. The older the citizen, the more tax relief. So it is categorized into 3. We are having the primary rebate, which is meant for every citizen. Either the person is young or it's a senior citizen, they all qualify to get the primary rebate. And then you come to the secondary rebate. The secondary rebate is meant for people who are older than 65 but less than 75. All those people who are less than 65 years old but more than 75 years old, those people get 2 rebates. The first rebate is the primary rebate, and then they also get, in addition to that, the secondary rebate. Then to the most senior citizens, people who are more than 75 years, they get 3 rebates. They will get primary rebate, they get secondary rebate, and they get the tertiary rebate. Let us take an example to solve the problems that you get under taxation. Here is an example. Mrs. Ntlapo is the 56-year-old HOD at Mahlenga Secondary School situated at Sokhulumi. She's earning a monthly salary of 27,876 Rand 80 plus a bonus. That is equivalent to her monthly salary. She's contributing 7.5% of her basic salary towards GEPF. She's also contributing towards the medical aid and has 2 dependents. When you read this context, what you should remember is that I said you should be able to unpack it. Check what is necessary from what we've discussed. Reading the first sentence that Mrs. Ntlapo is a 56-year-old, you analyze, you highlight the most important thing. We will first analyze the age, 56-year-old. Why is it necessary to analyze the age? Because the age will give us the tax threshold, and secondly, the age will give us the rebates that she qualifies for. And then when we continue on the second sentence, she's earning a monthly salary of 27,876 Rand 80. It is important to underline the word monthly salary, because sometimes the examiner can decide to give you the annual salary. If it's a monthly salary, remember that SARS is calculating tax once. As SARS is calculating tax once, therefore it means tax is calculated annually, then there is a need of multiplying it by 12 before you can even start calculating, plus a bonus. That is equivalent to her monthly salary. So when it comes to a bonus, you need not memorize, because the bonus plans from one institution to another institution are different. So according to our context here, it is said that the bonus is equivalent to her monthly salary. So it implies that we will take the amount, one amount of her monthly salary, add it to the annual salary that we've already calculated. And that will give us a total of the annual income. And then she's contributing 7.5% of her basic salary. Then it is important once more to note that 7.5% is calculated from her basic salary, not from her gross. So it means that the benefits are excluded. She's also contributing towards the medical aid and has 2 dependents. It is important also to highlight the number of dependents, because remember, the tax relief in terms of medical aid depends on the number of dependents that one has. So let us look at the first question. Use calculations to show that she qualifies to pay tax. Let us look at the assessment wage. Show. What does the word show mean? Do calculations to prove that the answer is correct. Once it says so, you must remember that your answer is 100% correct. Yours is just to give us the method or the calculations to arrive at the answer. Use calculations to show that she qualifies to pay tax. What is it that we need to do here? We need first to calculate the annual income. When you calculate the annual income, remember, we said we'll take the monthly income, multiply by 12, and add the bonus. That is the total annual income. And then you also identify the tax threshold according to the age. She is 56 years old. So the tax threshold is 75,000. Then when you compare the two, you can see that her income is 362,398 rand 40. Then when you compare it versus the tax threshold, she qualifies to pay tax because the tax threshold is less than her annual income. Okay, that is the answer for the first question. Question number 2. Determine her taxable income. The assessment word here is determine. What does the word determine mean? Establish exactly by calculation. So to determine her taxable income, remember we calculated the total annual income. From my previous explanation, I said you must calculate the non-taxable income, subtract it from the total income, then that will give you the taxable income. So when we look at the solution, the implication is that since the annual income has been calculated in 1.1, then the only thing that needs to be calculated is the non-taxable income. And the non-taxable income that we have here is the GEPF. Then you find 7.5% of 334,521 rand 60, which will give you 25,089 rand 12 cents. From there, you subtract it from the annual income. That will give you the taxable income. And the taxable income that you got is 337,309 rand 28. Question number 3. Calculate her annual medical credit. Annual medical credit, remember we said, if an individual has got dependents, therefore the individual gets credits for each and every dependent. Previously, the system was in such a way that the medical contribution were not taxed, were tax-free. Now, medical contribution is taxed. The reason why it's taxed is because you still get the rebate, which is called the medical credit. The medical credit works in this way. According to the SARS tax pocket for 2016-2017, 286 per month will be allocated for the main member. and then the same amount for the first dependent. And for any additional dependent, it will be 192. What I want to unpack here is that sometimes there is a confusion that the first dependent is a spouse. It is not a spouse. The first dependent is the member who has been captured first by the medical aid institution. So when we calculate the medical credit, it simply means that it depends on the number of the dependents. Looking at Ms. Nhlapo's context, we can see that she has 2 dependents. So this means that we will take 286 of Mrs. Nhlapo, and then we add it to 286 for the first dependent, plus 192 for the second dependent. But please take note that the monthly credits are allocated per month. So the value that you get, don't forget to multiply it by 12 to make it the annual medical credit. So the total medical credit will then be 9,168. Question number 1.4. Mrs. Nhlapo claimed that the monthly income tax she has to pay is less than 5,000. Verify her claim. What is a claim? A claim is to say something is true, or you say something is a fact, and then you believe that it is true. So this implies that Mrs. Nhlapo is convinced that she has to pay less than 5,000. So we have to verify whether is she telling the truth or not. Remember what I said in 1.1. I said the word sure, we are sure that the answer is correct. But with verify, take note that the answer can be incorrect or can be correct. What does the word verify mean? The word verify implies that you calculate, you get the answer, and you take your answer, you compare it to the answer that is given on the question. And then based on that, then you can generalize, you can draw a conclusion to say that the statement is valid or it's invalid. So let us look at the method that we should use to calculate or to solve this problem. Firstly, because the information that we need to calculate the tax, part of it has been covered already. Then what we will do is that because we have the taxable income, we will identify the correct tax brackets. After identifying the correct tax bracket, then we will use the correct tax bracket and substitute the taxable income. After substituting the taxable income, we will use the BOTMAS to solve the problem. The reason why we're using the BOTMAS is because the order of BOTMAS will determine the correctness of your answer. Bear in mind that BOTMAS, it's an acronym standing for bracket, orders, division, multiplication, addition, and subtraction. You do it in that order. Okay, so after calculating, then what we can see now here is that Mrs. Nhlapo's annual income falls under tax bracket number 3. Then you take her income, you substitute on the rate that has been given on the tax bracket, and the answer that you got is 74,845.88. Remember, when you calculate that payable tax, you did not subtract the rebates nor the tax threshold. Then the next step now will be to subtract the rebate. Then we look at her age. She's 56 years old. Then it implies that she only qualifies for the primary rebate. Then secondly, we must also subtract her medical credit. So the primary rebate that we have here is 13,500 rand. Then what we do, from the answer that we got, we will subtract the medical credit, we will also subtract the rebate. So the answer that we got is 52,177 rand 88. So because we are talking about the monthly payee, therefore we should divide the answer by 12 to make it a monthly tax. So the monthly tax will then be 4,348 rand 16. Therefore, her claim is valid because 4,348 rand 16 is less than 5,000 rand. The word valid implies that it produced the desired results. On that note, I would like to say, go and practice what we're doing in your classrooms. Make sure that you understand the concept, you understand the context, and you also understand the assessment weight. Vincent van Gogh said, if you hear a voice within you say you cannot paint, then paint by all means. That voice will be silenced. I want to say to you that you can do it. You are an architect of your own life. Your attitude will determine your altitude. Go and practice what you did in your classrooms. Thank you so much.